Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to my channel, My Loverlies. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I am so happy you found me. I do so hope that you will like and subscribe before you leave. Become part of the Mama family. Mama's got your back, at least where makeup's concerned, and definitely when that makeup is cheap. Today is True Love Tuesday, and we are talking about Mr. Judd Apatow and his absolutely stunning wife, Miss Leslie Mann. Before we get started, a very special, very warm welcome to any of those that are new to my channel. I am so incredibly happy that you are here. If you enjoy the content, I do so hope that you will mash that thumbs up button. I hope that you will subscribe if you have not already. And I hope that you will ring my bell, turn on your notifications, so that way, next time I upload a video, you can come right back here and we can hang out together again. Also, my eye makeup is already done. Super cute, a little bit graphic. I did some rhinestones today. I did, of course, make sure to film a TikTok on today's eye look, just in case you're interested. I will, of course, have the links for that, as well as all of my other socials, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff, listed in the description box below. Guys, if you are not following me on all my other socials, you definitely should go do that. I post fun content every single day, and if you're following me everywhere, you don't have to worry about missing a single moment of it. All right, with all of that out of the way, let's dive into today's video. Judd and Leslie's love story is 100% a Hollywood love story hidden gem. I very rarely ever hear anybody talk about them, and I just don't know why. Now, their marriage isn't necessarily the longest running one that I've spoken about to date, but it is so incredibly relatable just because it's so very normal. Guys, you have this man who is your typical kind of geeky, a little bit dorky, very socially awkward, but very successful man. And then you have Leslie, who is incredibly beautiful, the ditzy blonde, but she's also super witty and smart with a sense of humor that can just absolutely steal your heart. And together, they make such a perfect pair. I absolutely adore their story. It's short, but it's very, very sweet. And it's just kind of like an easy listening story this week. So I hope that you will sit back, relax, get comfy, get cozy, get you a big old glass of something to drink. If you see me looking in this direction, it is because I am looking at my notes. Guys, we're going to go ahead and dive right in, so buckle up. Leslie was born Leslie Jean Mann on March 26, 1972. She's roughly about 52 years old. Now, she was born in San Francisco, but pretty much raised in Newport Beach. Leslie's mother, Janet, was an incredibly dedicated and hardworking mother. She absolutely loved her child to the ends of the earth, but was not very lucky in love at all. And because of this, she pretty much raised Leslie as a single mother. Life was hard, times were tough, until I think Leslie hit about her tweens, early teens, and Janet found love once again and ended up getting remarried. Leslie's stepfather was actually a really wonderful man, and he made their lives so much better. Now, on top of her gaining a stepfather, she also got 2 more siblings out of the mix, and on top of that, along with the stepfather, came 3 much older stepbrothers. So needless to say, Miss Leslie grew up in a very big, pretty happy family. So her home life was pretty great. Now, when it comes to Leslie's career, she pretty much knew from the very start that she wanted to be an actress. But of course, you've got to figure that out some way, somehow, right? So when it comes to Leslie's childhood, she was a very shy, very socially awkward, kind of dorky little girl, right? She kind of grew into her body, grew into knowing herself, things like that. But at the very start, she was very insecure. She was very introverted and not the Leslie Mann that we know today. Once she got into middle school, going into high school, she of course found the school drama program, and this is really what helped her come out of her shell just a little bit. And through the drama program, she absolutely blossomed. She really developed her sense of humor. She developed her sense of self, who she wanted to be as a person. And it truly gave her the confidence to go out there and pretty much find herself. Now, fresh out of high school, she hit the ground running. Like I said, she pretty much knew what she wanted to do with her life and where she wanted to take her career. So she went for it. And she was pretty successful fairly early on. Right out of high school, she started her career at about 17 years old, and she started with TV commercials. Through her high school plays and performances, she really figured out that making people laugh was one of her favorite things in the entire world. Now, she already knew she wanted to be an actress, but she also had to figure out what kind of actress did she want to be. Did she want to be this super serious, big screen, dramatic actress, or did she want to lean into the comedy aspect just a little bit and be more of like a funny, happy-go-lucky kind of character? Well, we all know what she kind of leaned into. She definitely leaned into the comedy aspect and became a really wonderful comedic actress. Throughout her career, Leslie has gone on to build quite an impressive portfolio of work. She's been in over 36 films. She has voiced animated characters. She was in Rio. She was also in Paranorman. So she does quite a lot of voice acting as well. I do think that her voice is very almost unique. It's a little bit squeaky. She definitely has a very distinctive inflection in the way that she speaks. And also, I just find her voice to be incredibly calming and just like almost satisfying to listen to. And you can always tell immediately when she's voicing a character because it's just, she has a signature way that she talks. I absolutely adore all of the movies that she's been in. Some of my very, very favorite Leslie Mann movies include, there's The Cable Guy, which was one of her very first feature films. George of the Jungle, probably the very first movie that I really remember Leslie Mann in, but I remember that movie and I just absolutely loved her in it. She was so perfect. And then of course she did like opposite Brendan Fraser, and he was so beautiful back in the day. Still a very handsome man, but oh my goodness, like 1990 Brendan Fraser was unmatched. So stunning. Also, Big Daddy with Adam Sandler. You've got The 40-Year-Old Virgin. I think her part in that movie, she plays the super crazy kind of like psycho girl. So funny. I don't think anybody could have played that part better than Leslie Mann. You also have Knocked Up. You have, there's been so many truly amazing Leslie Mann movies. Also, The Other Woman with Cameron Diaz. I thought that was fantastic as well. She's just done really well for herself. Now, she's gone on to amass a fortune of about $160 million. That is a ton, especially when you take into consideration that she is not some big Hollywood leading lady. She's a great actress, but she's not one of the biggest names out there. So the fact that she's amassed such a fortune just tells me that, first of all, she's really smart with her money. She invests well, and also she's just kind of frugal. She doesn't go out and spend money that she doesn't have to, which I absolutely adore. I am really coming to terms with the fact that I have a little bit of a shopping addiction. We're going to do a Try to Get Ready with Me a little bit later this week. I hope you guys will tune in for that, but we got lots to talk about. Anyway, very, very smart with her money, manages it very, very well, and she's done so well for herself. $160 million is definitely not something to scoff at. Now, as far as Leslie's dating career is concerned, it basically just consists of Judd. Like I said, she met Judd when she was so young, basically at the very beginning of her career. So she's had other boyfriends, but nobody famous. Her love life pretty much just consists of her husband. And speaking of Leslie's husband, y'all, this man, his backstory and his upbringing couldn't have been any more different from Leslie's if he had intended it to be so. Like super, super different people, but also very similar at the same time, as most couples are. We're going to get into Judd's backstory. I do think that even though a lot of people don't talk about Judd Apatow, he is such an incredibly talented person. especially when it comes to comedic writing and producing. He's like one of the top names in the Hollywood game when it comes to funny films. He truly is just kind of almost a savant. I don't want to say a savant, but he really just is so very, very talented when it comes to making people laugh. Judd Apatow was born on December 6th, 1967. He's about 56 years old. That makes him almost 4 years older than Miss Leslie. Judd's early life, like I said, couldn't have been more different than Leslie's. So his father, Maury Apatow, was a real estate developer, while his mother, Tamara Shedd, ran a music label called Mainstream Records that was founded by her father. He is the middle child of 3 siblings. He has an older brother, and then he also has a younger sister named Mia. Now, also, middle children can sometimes be a little bit of a pain in the hiney, but it seems like he went through his childhood relatively unscathed and without getting in too much trouble. He was born in the borough of Queens, New York, but shortly after he was born, his parents packed up and moved to Long Island. His family is Jewish, though they don't actively participate in the religion at all. Now, unfortunately, when Judd was around 12 years old, his parents decided that marriage was not working for them anymore and decided to divorce. Now, after the divorce, everybody split up. Usually when it comes to divorce, the children, they either go stay with one parent or the other. But in Judd's case, they all went in separate directions. His older brother Robert opted to go live with their grandparents, while his younger sister Mia decided to go live with their mother. Now, Judd opted to stay with his father, and that is where he pretty much grew up with his father, though on the weekends he did very often go visit his mother and sister. Despite his parents' divorce, Judd's childhood did not suffer in any way, shape, or form. He went on to have an incredibly happy and very successful childhood. He grew up, if just a little bit privileged, but very, very normally. Now, while his parents were not strapped for cash in any way, shape, or form, his parents, of course, wanted him to know the value of a dollar and wanted him to work and kind of earn his own living. So when he was a teenager, he went out and he got a job. Now, his first job would pretty much set him down the path for the rest of his life. Judd's first job was at the local comedy club, and he was washing dishes and bussing tables. But while he was working at the Long Island East Side Comedy Club, while he was bussing tables or washing dishes, he would listen very intently to the comedian, whichever comedian was up on stage. And this is where he fell in love with comedy in all its many shapes and forms. During his downtime, Judd would often sneak out to the dining room and just avidly listen to whoever was up on stage. And this is really what lit a fire in him to really get a comedy career started. So as he gets a little bit older, he gets into high school, and he's presented with the opportunity of hosting a radio show for his high school's radio station. He called his radio show The Comedy Club, and while on air, he would pretty much just find celebrity comedians' numbers and cold call them. And believe it or not, was really successful. He ended up doing interviews with some really big names like Steve Allen, Howard Stern, John Candy, Jerry Seinfeld. He interviewed so many super big celebrities before they were big celebrities. So he really got in there before they kind of blew up. I'm assuming that's why he was so successful with the interviews, But y'all, this really had such an impact on him, not only as a person and a young adult, but also as a professional. Judd began performing as a stand-up comedian around the age of 17, which, funnily enough, is the exact same age that Leslie really started her career as well. So they have that in common. Y'all, when I tell you they are such similar people, it's kind of mind-boggling. They were both very focused and driven young people, and very, when it came to their careers, they were determined. They were determined to make of themselves exactly what they wanted to be. And I feel like that is really what contributed to them being such a success as a couple. Judd graduated high school in 1985, and immediately after graduating high school, packed his bags and moved to Los Angeles, where he then enrolled into the screenwriting program at the University of Southern California. It was at college that Judd met and made connections with a bunch of young people with similar mind frames, namely Ben Stiller and Adam Sandler. Now, 2 years into his college career, he ends up saying, "This is not me. I don't want to be in college anymore. I can do better. Like, I just want to get to work." So he ends up leaving college and, funnily enough, ends up renting an apartment with one of his best friends, Adam Sandler. Not long after that, he makes the acquaintance of a baby Ben Stiller. They actually met while they were waiting in line outside of a club in Los Angeles. They kind of hit it off and began a working relationship together from that point. Judd's relationship with Ben Stiller would become an extremely beneficial situation for both of them. But before that, he ends up being hired as a writer for the 1991 Grammy Awards, which then led him to co-producing comedy specials for Jim Carrey and Tom Arnold. By 1993, Judd has been working in the industry for a couple of years. He's established himself as a little bit of a rock star in the comedic writing world. And on top of that, by this point, he's already been nominated for 7 Emmys. He's won a couple of them, but nominated 7 times, which is truly remarkable. Now, after that, he goes on to he gets brought on to produce and rewrite the movie Heavyweights. Now, if you've never seen that movie, it's one of my very favorite movies from my childhood. I absolutely resonated with that movie in such a big way. It's about a bunch of chubby little boys that get sent to fat camp, basically, but they go to fat camp and they have the time of their lives, and then it gets really bad. Ben Stiller, he directed that movie, but he also acted in that movie as well. He comes in and he's this super fit, super attractive, basically bad guy, and he makes all these kids summer camp absolutely miserable, but they get him back in the end. Truly fantastic movie. Judd ended up being super proud of that movie, and him and Ben would continue to work together over the years. Later on, they would work together on The Cable Guy yet again, and this again is where he meets Leslie and a love story begins. Now, guys, his career has been truly incredible. He's gone on to make some fantastic movies. When it comes to funny movies, over I want to say the last 3 decades in Hollywood, 9 times out of 10, Judd has had something to do with it. Chances are he's helped write it, produce it, direct it, something of the sort. He has a hand in just about everything. And I think because of that, he is indispensable when it comes to Hollywood funny films. He's been responsible for Anchorman 1 and 2. He's been responsible for The 40-Year-Old Virgin. He's been Get Him to the Greek, Talladega Nights, Walk Hard, The Step Brothers, so many movies. He's had at least a little bit of something to do with, and his name is attached to absolutely everything. He's gone on to build a massive fortune. Again, he is incredibly hardworking. He is incredibly talented. And I believe that his fortune is rightfully deserved. He's got the talent. He's got the work ethic. He goes out and he kind of goes for it. Now, he's got about 25 directing credits. He's got about 40 production credits. He's written and he's just written and been a part of countless endeavors throughout his Hollywood career. Now, he's got a net worth of upwards of $170 million. Now, again, that is insane, but I do believe it's deserved. He's worked very hard for every penny of that. Now it is time for the very best part of the video. We're going to get into his love story with Leslie Mann. Judd and Leslie together might just be the best and most perfect celebrity couple I've spoken about to date. For close to 15 years, they've been best friends, lovers, co-workers, and gone on to achieve massive amounts of success together as a team. It's 1995, and Judd is already pretty much an established comedic writer in Hollywood. Leslie has had some small successes. She's been in a couple of TV shows. She's been in a couple of TV commercials, but she's not busted into film yet. She isn't a big name, and her manager calls her up one day and tells her, "Listen, I found you the perfect kind of audition. I think this role would be perfect for you. Here's the date, here's the time, be there or be square." Leslie, of course, absolutely jumps at the opportunity, and on the day of her audition, she arrives on site and is so, like, she's so nervous. She's on autopilot. She's not thinking, she's basically just in survival mode. So she walks into this room and she walks up to this table full of men. And again, she is so incredibly nervous. She's worried, am I going to be pretty enough? Am I going to be funny enough? I need to nail this audition. I need this part. And because she's so nervous, she really doesn't really pay attention to who's sitting at the table. The only person she really gives any attention to is the person giving her directions, which happens to be Ben Stiller. And she did say in an interview that she really was very attracted to Ben. She thought he was very, very cute, made things just a little bit easier. They had a little bit of banter, and Ben sits there. He runs lines with her. The audition continues, it progresses, and she's loosening up a little bit, and it ends up going fantastically. She absolutely blows everybody away, and the minute she kind of like walks out of the room, everybody's like, wow. Everybody is just like, she is totally perfect, but nobody is more blown away than Judd. Judd ends up turning to everybody else at the table and telling them, that's the future Mrs. Apatow. I'm going to marry that woman one day. Now, he, of course, ends up being correct, and it does eventually end up happening. However, the journey from point A to point B is not quite as simple as I'm sure he would have liked it to be. When Leslie gets the call back for the cable guy and is told that she got the part, she absolutely jumps for joy. She can't believe her luck. This is the big break that she's been waiting for, and she is bound and determined to give this part her absolute all. So first day of filming comes, she arrives on set, and she is ready to go. Now, from the time that she auditioned to this point, the first day of filming, Judd has done nothing but absolutely just moon over this woman. He has pined for her and longed for her from the very moment he met her. Now, again, you have Judd, who's a little bit, he's a little socially awkward. He's not the most suave or debonair of them all, doesn't have the most charisma. So he is hoping and praying that his sense of humor and basically his professional prowess, he's hoping that his success is going to earn him a couple of brownie points. Now, he doesn't know this, but Leslie is totally unimpressed by all of that. Leslie has been in the Hollywood scene for a couple of years by this point, and she's dated the Hollywood types, and really a relationship is the last thing on her mind. Now, of course, she's not going to spit in the face of love, but it's definitely not something she's on the lookout for either. She basically just wants to get on set. She wants to do her job. She wants to do it well, and she really wants to work on her career. Filming starts, they start doing their scenes, they do all the things that happen on a Hollywood film set, right? But again, Judd is working, Leslie's working, and they're not interacting a whole lot. Now, Judd, he's trying very, very hard to talk up Leslie, and she is just completely, she's not rude, but she's not interested either. Now, luckily for Judd, he has a secret weapon on set, and that comes in the form of his little sister, Mia. At the time, Mia was working for Ben as his personal assistant, and of course, Mia knows what's going on with her brother. She knows how into Leslie Judd is, and she becomes his wing woman of a sort. And she starts kind of talking Judd up to Leslie. She starts talking about how kind he is and how smart he is and how he's really great with the ladies and, this and that and the other thing. Really just trying to get Leslie to see Judd in any other capacity other than a boss and a work relationship. As filming starts to come to a close, Leslie, she kind of gets I don't know, I guess persistence pays off, and they finally whittle her down enough that she agrees to kind of hang out with Judd for a little bit. Now for Judd, this is 100% a date. He has finally gotten her to agree to go out on a date with him, and he is jumping for joy. But for Leslie, she thinks that this is just kind of like a casual hangout. She doesn't know it's a date. She thinks that they're just trying to build a friendship, that kind of thing. So definitely a huge miscommunication there, right? However, it ends up working out beautifully for both of them in the end. So what do they do on their first date? Well, Judd invites Leslie over to his home and he cooks for her. Now, guys, he's a bachelor, probably never really cooked a full meal in his life. So he's scrambling for ideas of what to feed this woman, right? He wants to impress her. Everybody loves spaghetti, right? So he makes her spaghetti. He invites her over. He makes spaghetti with canned ragu sauce. And then on the side, he serves Wonder Bread and margarine, right? I mean, it is what it is. They drink a couple of beers, they eat the spaghetti, and then after they have dinner, they head off to a basketball game. Throughout the entire evening, Judd is tripping over himself. He's kind of fumbling over his words. He's very awkward, but it's very sweet. Leslie can 100% see how much of an effect she has on this man, and it's very, very sweet. She's kind of endeared by it. Now, as soon as they get into the car and are headed to the basketball game, this is when it sets in that, oh, this isn't a friendly hangout. This is a date. Judd tries to hold her hand, things like that. He's not pushy or too forward in any way, but he definitely makes it clear that he is interested in Leslie in a very romantic way. And at this point, she's kind of like, oh, what do I do? Now, her past boyfriends have all been so awful to her, right? Typical Hollywood types kind of use you and then on to the next. Everybody was always so mean to her and so judgmental of her. And then you have Leslie, who inside is still the very dorky, geeky, kind of like ditzy blonde with the snort laugh, right? Like she is trying very, very hard to be this blonde Hollywood bombshell, but inside she's still the dorky little girl. So when she's with Judd, it kind of brings that side of her out, and she's finding it very easy to just be herself. He is so attentive to her and so sweet and so worried about whether she's having a good time. Is she enjoying herself? Does she need anything? And the more the night progresses and the sweeter he becomes, and it's not like he's trying to it doesn't feel like he's just trying to get her into bed. He just really wants her to have a good time. And it gets to her. It gets to her, and at that moment she starts to fall just a little bit in love with Judd. That night after the basketball game, they get back in the car and they head back to Judd's place. And they kiss for the first time. And the first kiss tells Leslie absolutely everything she needs to know about this man. She might not have been feeling the fireworks beforehand, and even though it wasn't like this love at first sight, instant primal lust kind of thing, the sparks absolutely ignited the very first moment their lips touched each other's. And y'all, when I tell you that she fell madly, truly, deeply in love with this man at this very moment, they end up going back to Judd's place. Leslie ends up staying the night, though they don't do anything other than kiss and cuddle. And from that point on, they basically become Judd and Leslie, right? They become a couple, they start dating exclusively, and very quickly thereafter, it's time to get married. Judd was not playing around. He was not playing around with Leslie. He was not going to let this woman slip through his fingers, and he locked her down the very moment he thought it was acceptable to do so. So they end up having a very short engagement, and then when it comes time to get married, Leslie, she's very pregnant at this point. She's about 5 months pregnant at the time of their wedding. They wanted to get married before their first child was born. So they have a very small, very intimate wedding on the big island of Hawaii. How small and how intimate was this wedding, you might ask? It was so small and so intimate that the only people present were Leslie, Judd, a banjo player, and the officiant. They had fallen together so effortlessly, so easily. Love doesn't always have to be this big, hard, complicated thing. Sometimes it really is just that easy. And when it came to their wedding, it started with the two of them, so they didn't figure they needed much more than that. Again, Leslie was very pregnant at this point in time as well, and did not want to go through the stress and the hassle of planning this big extravagant wedding. They didn't want to have to spend the money on it. Weddings are very, very expensive, things like that. So basically what they did is they had a honeymoon, baby moon, and wedding all at the same time. They got married on June 9th, 1997, And y'all, when I tell you Judd is he's just full of surprises. I'm not even playing with you. Not every surprise is as, wonderful as the last. So when it comes to the day of their wedding, Leslie shows up. She's in her beautiful kind of like breezy white gown, and she's just kind of like waiting for Judd to show his face, right? Well, he shows up and he shows his face, and he also shows quite a bit more face than she's ever seen before. So when she first met Judd, he had this big old bushy beard, and throughout the entirety of their dating period, he had kept this big bushy beard. So on the day of their wedding, for some reason, Judd thought that it would be a fantastic idea to shave his face. He got rid of all of the facial hair, and he starts walking up to Leslie on their wedding day, and she's like, "Who's this guy?" It literally takes her like 5 seconds. I don't know. It takes her a minute to recognize that this is Judd. This is the man that she's about to marry. And she said it was so disorienting and so weird to like really see that much of his face. And I completely understand, because Mr. Hubby shaved his beard. We've been together for 15 years at this point, and the entirety of our relationship, Mr. Hubby has had a very big beard and a goatee, right? Like mustache, beard, sideburns, the whole thing. So like more than half of his face is covered with hair. The same went for Judd. So I remember when Mr. Hubby shaved his beard, the one and only time he's ever done it for the entirety of our relationship. It was surreal. It felt like I was living and kissing and loving a stranger. I had no idea who this man was. And Leslie felt the very same way. She felt like she was marrying a stranger she had never seen. And, I can understand why he did it. He wanted to go into their marriage knowing absolutely everything that they could about each other. So he decided to show his face to her, right? Completely understand it, and I can respect it. But I can also understand how much of a shock it must have been for her to see his face, like to really see his face for the first time on their wedding day. That's just insane. 6 months later, Leslie gave birth to their first child together, a daughter born on December 15th, 1997, that they decided to name Maud. 5 years after the birth of their first child, Leslie gave birth to their second daughter, another beautiful, lively little girl they decided to name Iris. She gave birth to her on October 12th, 2002. While their children were still very, very young, Judd continued to work. He continued to write and produce, things like that. Leslie continued to work as well, though she was on again, off again. She really wanted to spend as much time at home with her daughters as she possibly could. She wanted to be a very present and very like a very hands-on mom, and that's exactly what she was. She stayed home. She enjoyed her daughters, infancy, things like that. But once they got a little bit older, it was definitely time to go back to work. It was definitely time for her career to kind of pick up a little bit of momentum. So she put the pedal to the metal and went back to work. And go back to work they did. They hit Hollywood hard, and they came out with hit after hit after hit. This is when we're getting 40-Year-Old Virgin. This is when we're getting Knocked Up. We're getting a ton of really fantastic movies from both Judd and Leslie. And y'all, they are a team. They are a team no matter what. And everything that Judd has a part of, he brings Leslie on, because that's his wife, that's his partner. And if he can help her out, help her career out in any way, he's 100% going to do that. So if Leslie was interested in a project he was working on, he found a way to bring her on board, and it really skyrocketed her career in a very big way. So she was in a ton of movies kind of consecutively throughout that entire period of time. Judd's willingness to bring his family on board does not end with just his wife. When it came to Knocked Up and This Is 40, not only did he want to bring his wife on board, but he also wanted to bring their children on board as well. And this was kind of like a big deal between the two of them, because Leslie was very against. She was very against letting her daughters enter Hollywood and start working on movies in that way. When it comes to a lot of child actors, things like that, the story usually doesn't end too well. She wanted her daughters to be able to enjoy their childhood, and work is work. Being on a movie set is work. Whether you want to think of it that way or not, it is still work. And she wanted her children to be able to enjoy their Hollywoods carefree and, simply things like that. And also, she's very aware of the pressures that specifically women face in Hollywood, how they're judged, how they are, objectified, things like that. And Leslie just point blank period did not want that for her daughters. Honestly, it was really Judd who pushed to have their daughters in both of those movies. And at first, Leslie was very against it. Like I said, she didn't want her daughters to have any part of that. She did not think it was necessary. She very much felt like it was too early for them to even be thinking about it. But instead of Leslie really putting her foot down, Judd would ask and she'd be like, no, no, no. She'd give him very non-committal answers. And, instead of just saying a firm no, she kind of just brushed it off. She figured he would stop asking eventually. Well, if Judd's persistence in getting her to go out with him in the first place was any indication, when Judd wants something, he can be very persistent and a little bit annoying until he gets what he wants. So he continues to ask Leslie as they're getting ready to film, as they're getting things together. And then all of a sudden, a week before filming is set to start, he's like, I need to know now. Are the kids going to be in the film or not? You need to give me a yes or no answer right now. I didn't want to put them in the movie, but Judd thought it was a great idea. Time passed and I kept saying no, 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 but he kept asking and kept pushing, and I started to kind of second guess myself a little bit. Then it was like a week before filming started and he said, you have to tell me yes or no right now. He would ask me while I was really busy, so I couldn't really focus on my answer. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of like happened and they were in the movie, and I guess it was okay. Now, this really made me think about how decisions are made in their relationship, because I feel like their relationship is very much based on mutual respect and things like that. But it seems to me like when Judd really wants something, he can be a little bit annoying. He can be very persistent and also a little bit pushy when it comes to him getting what he wants. And I feel like in that instance, he very much steamrolled Leslie and wasn't going to take no for an answer, because he had gotten his answer. She had kept saying no, 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 and he just that just wasn't an acceptable answer for him. So he continued to ask until he finally was just like, and she just gave up. And she was like, finally, like, fine, right? And I know all about this. My son has the same exact tactic. He just asks again and again and again, or he'll wait till I'm super, super busy and not really paying attention. And then he'll kind of ask offhandedly, like, hey, can I do this? And I'm not really listening or paying attention. He'll just be like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then it ends up coming back to bite me in the hiney. As I said earlier, I truly believe that Judd and Leslie are soulmates. I truly believe that their relationship is built on a foundation that is solid and based on mutual love and respect. And even if in that instance, Judd kind of steamrolled her a little bit, it was okay. Ultimately, like it ended up working out pretty perfectly. However, as perfect for each other as two individuals may be, no individual, no person is perfect. And as wonderful as two people may get along 90% of the time, there's still that 10% where things can kind of get ugly sometimes. Absolutely no relationship is perfect, and there is not a marriage in existence that is 100% conflict free, and the same can be said for Judd and Leslie. So after they filmed Knocked Up, Judd began writing the sequel, which was This Is 40, and in that movie, their daughters appeared in that film as well. And again, you have Leslie, who is in this kind of role as a middle-aged mom who's trying to do it all. She's trying to balance family and a career, and they've, in the relationship, she plays opposite Paul Rudd, and they've been in this relationship for a really, really long time. And, as marriages do, things get stale, problems start happening, resentment starts to building, and, problems start, right? Now, in the writing of this script and in the filming of it, right, because you have Leslie working on like in front of the camera, but you have Judd working behind it. So they're working on the same set, and a lot of their personal problems from their marriage ended up getting kind of like tossed into the script a little bit, and it became like the filming of the movie became very personal for them. A lot of Judd and Leslie's personal issues ended up popping up on set, like popping out of the script and kind of being reenacted out on set. And because of that, it was actually a pretty trying time for their marriage. They ended up hashing out a lot of their personal problems and personal drama right there on set, and it was a little bit of a difficult working relationship for them. Like I said, they've worked together countless times throughout both of their careers, but because the script was such a personal one, and again, also, it's very easy to ignore problems until they're kind of shoved into your face, and then what often ends up happening is you just deal with everything all at the same time. And that's what ended up happening to Judd and Leslie. I think it is a very normal, very real problem that 99.999% of marriages struggle with. So they ended up dealing with a lot of their personal drama right there on set in front of cast, crew, God, and the nation. Fortunately for them, by the time the movie hit theaters, they had really worked through the biggest part of most of their issues, and they lost that personal connection to the angst in that film. So honestly, overall, the film helped their relationship in a very big way. It really forced them to confront most of their problems head on and really face the issues and fix them. And then after that, their relationship was stronger. Was the strongest it had ever been. So they continued to work together. They continued to make tons of films together, and they continue to have an incredibly strong relationship. The fact that they don't pretend that their life is perfect, I feel like is really what sets them apart from just about every other celebrity couple out there. They are so open about their flaws as people, both professionally and personally. They're just very open about the fact that they're not perfect, and I love them for it. They try so very hard to be just a normal, everyday couple. And I think also the fact that they're not super big celebrities, like they're very famous and they're very talented, they're very influential. But when it comes to like the fame meter, they're not Kim Kardashian, they're not Brad Pitt, right? So they get to fly under the radar just a little bit. And I feel like that gives them a major advantage when it comes to just living everyday life. Judd went on to say, "We've been married 27 years and we have fought in every restaurant in Los Angeles, from McDonald's to In-N-Out Burger and Nobu. You name it, we've been there. We engage in arguments, and I think that's why our relationship is so healthy." After 3 decades of marriage, Judd and Leslie are still learning about each other and love that there are still new things to discover about each other. I feel like, honestly, in marriages, it is so easy to feel like you know everything there is to know about your significant other. But honestly, you can never really know a person 100%. There is always something new to discover, and it's only when you stop trying to learn about your partner that the marriage or the relationship begins to decline. Leslie says, "I feel so lucky that I get to spend my life with him. He really is such a good person. And at the same time, I feel like I don't know him at all. Who is this person walking around my house, eating my food, and sneaking off into his little room to do secret little things?" Leslie and Judd have such an incredibly strong connection, almost makes me feel a little bit jealous. I feel like, how in the world could it be possible to live with somebody and raise children with somebody and work with somebody and still be so incredibly happy to see them every single day? I don't know how they make it work, but they definitely do. And y'all, they are sickeningly happy. They are disgustingly content. And I'm not really jealous because I got a great relationship with Mr. Hubby, but I am incredibly happy for them. When it comes to their daughters, their relationship even inspires their daughters to go out and find something very, very similar. Their youngest daughter, Iris, said they are very much so what she looks for in her love life. They will just sit together for hours talking, and her sister are always left wondering what it is that they could be talking about that is so incredibly interesting. They still make each other laugh and are best friends, and it was really nice for them to witness such a healthy relationship while they were growing up. A super fun little tidbit before I sign off. So how did Leslie and Judd name their babies? So when it came to naming their daughters, they actually had the hardest time. They couldn't find a name. They were kind of lost about it. But for their oldest, it wasn't quite so difficult, because Leslie's favorite movie is Harold and Maude, and then Judd's favorite TV show was Maude. So Maude was kind of like a no-brainer for their oldest. But for their youngest is really where they had the most difficulty. They were searching for a name that they both liked. They couldn't agree on anything until Leslie went to bed one night about a couple of weeks before she was due to give birth. And we all remember the pregnancy dreams. They can be so insane. They're like, they can be terrifying sometimes. But in this one particular dream, Leslie is laying there, and then it just felt so real when somebody leaned over and whispered the name Iris into her ear. She woke up, she told Judd all about it, and they both were like, that's it, that's the name, it's perfect. Guys, when it comes to Judd and Leslie's relationship, it's not perfect. They're not perfect people, but I think what makes them so fantastic is just how honest they are about that fact. They're so honest about the fact they're not perfect. They don't have everything figured out, but they love each other enough and they care enough about their marriage to continuously work on it every single day. They've gone on and built such a normal, beautiful family in a world that is just full of fakes and copies and just anything other than realness, right? And they are such real people. I love them so very much. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. It was short and sweet, but super adorable. This is today's finished look. What do we think? Do we like it? Do we love it? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I'll have everything I used in today's video listed in the description box below. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a big old thumbs up before you leave. As always, no filters, no fancy lighting. It is just me sitting in front of my camera, playing with some makeup, telling you guys an epic love story. Hoping you guys are enjoying what I'm doing. And until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and remember, you're important. Bye.